show for you. Uh, it's an interesting show. Piers Morgan debating with his panel on LGBTQIA Pride Month. Um, I personally think it was a great topic, and I think whenever you sort of engage in topics like these, you gotta like stick to the topic and try to debate it in the best possible way, put out some challenging questions and get to listen to different point of view or perspective on the subject itself and debate each other off of that. Not and don't try in the same time try to sort of fuel or trigger emotions in others because that that alone will derail the whole conversation. And I think Pierce had an opportunity here to one, educate, uh, inform, raise awareness, and address some unanswered questions or some challenges that others may have around the same subject of Pride Month celebration. But what I found is that he played his guess. Maybe it was deliberate, where he sort of pour uh, gas or fuel on the fire to ignite the whole chaos on the show, because you'll see it. Everyone just went different places. Um, but I think personally, on the subject, for me, in my personal opinion, I think everyone should have a right to celebrate their own uniqueness or anything they want to draw attention to their own identity, whether that be a cultural identity or that be physical identity or spiritual identity, financial identity, whatever it is. If you want to celebrate the uniqueness about you, you should have the right to do so. And I think Pride Month is just one of those sort of opportunities that a minority group or underrepresented group gets an opportunity to celebrate who they are. Um, and you don't have to celebrate it. You don't have to celebrate with them. You don't have to participate with them. I've never, in my opinion, in my experience, I would say, I've never come across anyone who forced you to celebrate Pride Month or turn against you. And I would love to see the evidence where that is present, where people turn against you for not wanting to celebrate Pride Month. Um, and so, yeah, let's get into the debate and see what Pierce and his guests how they uh, how they approach the subject, the topic, and go from there.
Mothers, fathers, armed forces veterans, fallen soldiers, women, patron saints all have one thing in common. There's one calendar day per year held in their honor. Quite right, too. There's always been a source of some confusion to me that simply being gay or part of the LGBTQ2 plus community entitles you to an entire month. I'm, of course, referring to the holy month of Pride, which mandates 30 days of revelry in honor of, as I say, the LGBTQIA, my apologies to A's, dash 2SL dash plus community. I have no idea what half of that means.
Sorry, I had to stop. That's right there. That is gaslighting the situation. He's already sending triggers to his audience, to his panel, um, by exactly the things he just said there, and that will fuel anyone, and that will cause people who are a bit more conservative and hear sort of language that he just used, such as the holy month of Pride. And believe me, I've never come across anyone from the community that would use holy in that month, because they know what it will do. That will alone trigger conservative religious individuals using that word holy. And he just did that. And that's just gaslighting. And then he went on to say 2 all these numbers as if, you know, that exists. That doesn't. He's just taking a mic right there. So Pierce already set the stage. He's already gearing everyone up on his panel to go at the subject, and even those who are going to be watching the video, the content, to get all fueled up about it and riled up about it. Yeah, but Pierce know what he's just doing there. I don't agree with that.
But I'm very happy for everyone to lead the lives they want. And admittedly, after reading that aloud, it all makes a lot more sense. Or does it? Clearly, there's a day for every letter, but the serious point here is that this kind of enforced celebration of sexual preferences is, I think, becoming a little bit counterproductive. There are many millions of people, myself included, who couldn't give a damn what you do behind closed doors, or frankly, in front of open doors, and would rather not know about it either way. I don't care. Why should they be browbeaten and shamed into thinking they're bigots if they don't go on with enforced month-long celebrations? This is what happened when Adele called out a heckler who reportedly shouted, "Pride sucks."
What was that? Did you just say pride sucks? Did you come to my show and just say that pride sucks? Are you stupid? Don't be so ridiculous. You got nothing nice to say, shut up, all right?
Charming. And here's the problem with that for young Adele, who was effing and blinding at somebody who paid presumably very good money to be at that concert of hers in Vegas. It turns out the man didn't shout "Pride sucks" at all. He shouted "Work sucks," to which most people probably would have agreed with him, including, judging by the whining that she's been doing since she got the gig in Vegas, Adele. But maybe he's employed by the BMW marketing department, which has been busy fielding complaints this week about another recurring Pride problem: corporate hypocrisy. The car maker dutifully changed its logo on social media to reflect the Pride rainbow, keeping with many thousands of virtue signaling corporations across the Western world. The followers in the Middle East, where homosexuality is commemorated rather differently, got the plain old blue and white. After a backlash, BMW posted, "This is an established practice at the BMW Group, which takes into consideration market-specific legal regulations and country-specific cultural aspects." Well, there we have it then. These companies don't care about gay rights. They're not making a stand at all on any principled level. They're just adjusting their virtue signaling to amplify their virtue so they can sell a maximum number of products in any particular country of the world, regardless of what that country.
I'm just going to say that I agree with him on that as virtue signaling. And many corporations do that. They don't really care about anyone, about any uniqueness about your culture or your identity. They don't care. As long as they have the ability to sell their products and make money, that's all that matters to them. I agree with him on that. However, the flip side to that is that these corporations understand cultural sensitivity and nuances as well. So while they can change or apply the rainbow colors to their logos, or LinkedIn pages or stuff like that, to in recognition and celebration of Pride Month, they also understand the sensitivity and respect culture differences in other countries. And wherever they may have a business unit or some sort of site or location in a different country, they respect those nuances of that culture. And that's why they didn't do that. It's not like they don't care about gay rights for people in the Middle East or anything like that, but they understand those individuals are a minority in that area, and you have to consider their health and safety if the majority of the country or the public or the society is not more sort of open or lenient or accepting to the celebration of LGBTQ plus as the West, or in the UK or Canada or the US and stuff, in countries like that. So it's, corporations they understand those invisible lines. So yes, I agree, it's virtue signaling when they do these things, because gay people don't stop being gay in the month of June. Okay, it's just like Black History Month. It's the whole point of having 1 month. You just don't turn up being black for 1 month or whatever. But I understand the significance as well of celebrating, and I think everyone should get an opportunity to be celebrated. But I'll speak more on that. So yeah, let's
actually thinks about things like homosexuality. And as a very unhappy marriage of Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light shows, they will drop the cause like a flaming hot potato if it costs them money or has any kind of backlash. Now, I fully support LGBT rights. I can only remember those four, so my apologies to the rest. I always have. And I don't need a rainbow on my cereal box, credit card, sandwich, or beer to prove that. And I certainly don't need it for a month. In a moment, we'll debate all things pride with tonight's pack, Esther Krakow, James Barr, and Ernest Owens. But first, returning to Uncensored is Riley Gaines, whose new book appropriately is titled Swimming Against the Current, Fighting for Common Sense in a World That's Lost Its Mind. Well, Riley, great to have you back on Uncensored. How are you?
I'm doing great, Piers. It's great to be back on with you, so thank you.
Well, listen, you're one of my heroines out there because you fight what's often been a very lonely battle against this kind of woke nonsense that's been happening, certainly in the sport that you were so accomplished in. Tell me the premise of the book.
Yes, it was a whirlwind. To be able to add author to my resume now is crazy. But the premise of the book, look, of course, a little background on me, what it takes to be an elite athlete, something that I think a lot of the people who are ultimately making the decisions, making these rules don't understand. More depth and count of what we went through at that national championships in regard to the unfair competition in the locker room. Of course, the silencing that we faced. Again, something I don't think a lot of people understand. Why so few have been willing to put their name and their face to this. How we got here, the trajectory of where we're going, and what we as everyday people, common sense human beings who intuitively know that men and women are different, what we can do to combat this movement.
It is extraordinary to see what's happened in sport, but I do think that the woke worm is turning. I am beginning to feel like the silent mass majority are beginning to rise up and say enough of this. This has to be sorted a different way. When you see what's happened in swimming, in sprinting, in any sport that requires a fairness and equality around size and power and speed, which of course is determined largely by biological sex. It's why we separate the sexes for the Olympics, for example. I do feel the tide's turning, pardon the pun. Do you feel that?
100%. I feel more hopeful now than I have felt in these past 2 years since I've taken this stand. I think parents are waking up. I think coaches, female athletes, medical professionals. I think your everyday person who otherwise maybe would have considered themselves apolitical, probably people who thought this never would impact them, their families. They're understanding now that no one is immune to this movement. It's infiltrated into all levels, whether that's corporate America, whether that's academia, of course, within our government, our media, what have you. And they're understanding it's up to us as everyday people to call out the hypocrisy and push back. So yeah, I agree. I feel very hopeful at this point in time.
What do you feel about things like Pride Month? I mean, like I say, I support the LGBT community, always have done. But I find this whole idea of a whole month being set aside for celebrating Pride. I'm like, why? Why do we give 1 day to veterans of world wars and a month to gay people, for example? No harm intended on Mr. Barr here. I'm sure he'll be responding in kind too. But I have no issue with James and his sexuality.
Thank you.
But why do I have to celebrate it for a month?
I should say no issue with yours, Piers.
But
I would rather you didn't ram it down my throat all the time.
There's no danger of that happening. But I just wanted to, but to be clear, there's no straight month, right? There's no celebration of my sexuality or ramming of anything down people's throats. But Riley, before we all lose the plot here, how do you feel about enforced virtue signaling, where if you don't go along with this, then you're kind of lambasted as a bigot? We see it in all sorts of different ways. I remember with the George Floyd murder happened, a horrific thing, which I wrote and spoke about a lot, about how horrific it was. And it had to affect real change, which it did. But that day when everyone was told to do a black square on their Instagram for a day, and I just didn't want to do it. And I instead posted a picture of myself in my local park with a bottle of rosé and got completely annihilated by people who felt this meant I must therefore be a racist. And I was like, no, I spent all morning actually debating this on television. I wrote a column about it. And then I fancied a glass of rosé, and I fancied exercising my free speech rights to post a picture of said bottle of rosé on my Instagram. And yet I literally had my kids ring me, my sons, who were being bombarded with abuse. What is your father doing? Why isn't he doing the black square? And I feel the same about the backlash that comes with things like Pride Month. It's like, if you don't go along with all this, somehow you must be homophobic, which I'm not. Your thoughts?
Right. No, I totally agree. I just want to know what posting a black square on Instagram, how that helps quite literally anybody. And yeah, to your point, Piers, look, the Pride movement, it's not just one day, it's not just 1 month. The LGBTQ plus community has over half a calendar year in days. There's Trans Visibility Day, there's Asexual Awareness Day, there's Gender Fluid Day. I mean, I can't even keep up. And yeah, it's not even about that these days exist or that they're divisive, I think, in their true nature. The problem is, just as you said, the backlash, the risk, the threats that we face if we don't participate, or even if we dare to question this. And again, it's in every single realm of society. This has seemingly overtaken the public square. And I think the same sentiment you had, what people do behind closed doors, by all means, that's the beauty of living in America. In my case, that's the beauty of where we live.
Of course.
But I don't want it to cost my taxpayer dollars, and I don't want to be forced to support this, because as a Christian, I mean, I don't support it, but that doesn't mean I want to infringe on someone else's rights. Just as I don't want my rights as a woman infringed upon.
Well, let me play a clip before we come to the rest of the pack. It's a Jordan Peterson who's gotten to a furore over his video about Pride, where he says a sexually narcissistic movement headed for a fall because it's been taken over by the radical trans lobby. Let's take a look.
There's a real tinge of narcissism, sexual narcissism, the trans pushing, gender affirming butchers and liars primarily target young people whose most likely outcome on the sexual front is homosexuality. I don't like the flag. I think it's a piece of idiocy. I don't understand why it changes every bloody week. And I think the surgery, the gender affirming care movement, I think it is Nazi Auschwitz level awful.
Mr. Barr.
What on earth is that closet?
Yeah, I'll just jump in here. No, that's like straight up on call for by Jordan Peterson. There's no need to make such similarities or draw comparison. It's just like, that is awful. It's an awful comparison. No one is treating nobody like the Nazis did, and I think that's downright disrespectful to those who endure suffering by the hands of the Nazis. And I'm sure people from the Jewish community, when they hear stuff like that, it triggers something in them, an emotional response, and rightfully so. They should be triggered by that, because that's an ugly comparison. But again, this is my point. Pierce started his monologue with some gaslighting. Then Riley, she had a little bit take on, they have Pride Month, and then they have half the calendar year with this celebration with gender fluid awareness and all of that stuff. Well, if you think of a community, that's a large group of people. And if you think of LGBTQIA, that is like sub community in a larger community. And on those days, and she rightfully said days, there are different representation of that community will celebrate their identity on those days. And they have a right to do that. Listen, I want to make the stands right here. I am not gay. I'm a straight man. But what I am about is about, hey, let people do their own thing, man. Let people just be. You know, for me, you can't talk about free society and free speech and all these free things that you want to talk about when it matters to you. But then when someone else want to express their freedom, it bothers you because it doesn't align with whatever part of you. If you think about it, you know, gay people have been locked away for like years because of straight people made laws that say, okay, you shouldn't be out in public doing A, B, C, and D, right? So when Jordan Peterson is saying that, oh, I don't understand it, and this is an intelligent guy, right? I don't understand it. Every week something changes. Well, if you're being a whole community has been locked away for decades, centuries, they couldn't express themselves, then it comes a point where as they're able to express themselves, they're evolving. Things are changing. The way they see themselves, the way they see the world, all of these changes are happening because it's like an explosion. It's not a steady change just of, like straight people have went through. We have to take into perspective, women are part of a minority group compared to males. And if you put it in any situation such as, let's say, corporate world, we all know women even weren't allowed to vote how many years ago? Women weren't allowed to be in the office how many years ago, right? And that has been a steady change. Now we're seeing more female CEOs. And that happened because there was a massive movement too, where women stood up and say, I want to report on this has happened to me by straight men. Straight men did these things to me, the Me Too movement. And we saw a rapid interest and awareness where society as a whole took a step back and said, hey, that's not cool. That's not right. We need to stop that. Right. So that's one minority. Another minority is the LGBTQ plus, which encompass or embodies, I would say, every single race and religion. Right. So for me, it's a community that is now growing, understanding themselves. So there will be a lot of changes, but I don't agree with Jordan Pearson, his gaslighting, using ugly comparison. Piers Morgan, he started his, and then Riley, she had a dig. That's just blowing stuff up when there's no need. Just keep it clean and give your opinion, but don't just create a narrative in someone else's head that, people from the community are butchering people and those type of words, the language you're using, that's not cool because, some people don't have that level of understanding. When they hear these type of language being used, they get triggered by it. Oh, gay people are butchering people. They're doing these things to you. So if I don't celebrate Pride Month, I'll get butchered. So they're not saying that exactly, but for those who are not of the trained mind and they hear certain language, they'll be triggered by it and they misunderstand everything that is being said here. And then they go on the attack and people end up getting hurt. So that's my beef with we're trying to have a intellectual debate about a subject matter and at the same time trying to fuel or ignite spark or trying to create chaos so you can drive interest. I think you could just have a debate and keep it clean. But hey, let's see what else you have to say here.
Closeted gay man wearing. That is an abomination. That is a crazy load of absolute bullshit. I'm sorry. That is insane. How dare he say that about Auschwitz? Gay people were killed alongside Jewish people and disabled people in the Holocaust. That is disgusting, Piers. That is disgusting. You shouldn't even be giving that airtime.
Well, he's a very famous guy.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be listening to what he thinks. I mean, he says loads of nonsense.
Well, you say loads of nonsense. I don't deplatform you.
No, I mean, I do agree with you. I agree with you, James. Wow, that drawing likeness to Nazis and Auschwitz is a bit extreme. However, he does make a valid point that.
Well, he was talking specifically about
the butchery of gender-affirming care.
That's what he was talking about.
I'm sorry. There is nothing positive about basically castrating people and chopping off their breasts and their sexual organs to try and affirm anything other than some deep psychological distress. And I think that's the point he should have made instead of comparing it to Auschwitz, because it doesn't always have to be compared. Again.
Butchery. These people are using language in the context that it shouldn't be using. Butchery. You go to the slaughterhouse, you see what a butcher will do to meat, right? Carcass of cow or sheep or goat or pig, whatever, right? If not a human being butchered another human being, it will make the news. Okay? If someone go to do a surgery, that's their own personal preference. These are adults, right? Now, there's another debate that sometimes this is happening to minors, such as people in their teens, like 16 and 17 and all of that stuff. That's a different discussion. But for the most part, if you are legally, you're a legal adult based on the jurisdiction of which you live in, right? You're an adult. You can make those choices. You pay your taxes. You're responsible for yourself, your actions. It's not butchery if you decide to do that. Any augmentation to your body, it's your body. You got to live and deal with the consequences. What about those women who go and have implants, like they go get a boob job, or they go get the stuff that is happening with people doing BBLs and all of that stuff? That's their body. That's their choice. That's their right. It's not butchery. Again, language. Use certain language and you fit it into your narrative or your context or whatever it is you're trying to create. You get someone who's not of a sound mind hearing this stuff and go on the attack. And that's what could happen here. And this is what we call safe spaces. And I think it's not a safe space, because safe space is being aware of what language I'm going to use. If it's going to cause you harm, emotional harm, stress, whatever, it's going to cause some trigger in someone else's. And that's not safe language to use right now. And I have a problem with that. Don't have a problem with they standing up and giving their opinion, but it's the type of language they're using.
To Auschwitz. That's a very touchy topic.
Everything that's been said here so far, I could write an essay about it. I have so much to say, and it's difficult to just respond to literally all of the insane things that have been coming out of your mouths over the last 10 minutes, to be honest.
What was insane about anything Riley said?
I do find behind closed doors
what was
quite
insane
offensive.
about anything Riley said? This is what Riley said.
Can I just reply to Esther first?
You can.
I don't want to
everything Riley ever says, people like you go, it's insane. And when I say, what is it she said that's insane?
It's a great question.
You want to move on?
No, I think what she said about how she doesn't agree with it, but whilst also saying, I don't, well, that's not really supportive,
have to
is
agree
it?
with you.
It's not supportive.
She doesn't have to.
Why does everyone need to support?
They don't. But let me just try and make one single point, if I can.
It's not compulsory
please
to
make a
support
point.
anybody.
It's not that these concerns that Riley raises aren't important, or that women's safety isn't important. All of that is important. And what happened to Riley, it's an important story that we should listen to. Everyone should. And the left shouldn't be attacking you for that. That literally shouldn't happen. No one should be attacking anyone.
Okay.
We should listen with empathy.
Yes.
But I think the issue occurs when we look at abuse rates in America for women, right? It's 1 in 3 women that are abused by men in America. You haven't commented on that. You haven't commented on abortion. You haven't commented on so many things. Trump discussing that it's okay to grab a woman's pussy. You don't make comments on those issues. And those issues are affecting more women than a trans woman in a changing room, because there aren't that many. There's only 700,000 trans women in America.
So because
they
Riley
can't all be abusing women, that would be insane. They're busy.
All right, I'll let Riley answer that herself.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why for this, though. The truth of the matter is that, thank you. The truth of the matter is that there's always this conversation about the woke group, the far left group that's pushing an agenda. But we got to be real about the people like her who's pushing a far right agenda that oftentimes is fixated on coming after people of color,
what are you
coming
talking
after
about,
queer
far
people,
right?
and also pushing an agenda.
See, I just want to jump in here again. As I mentioned, this topic was supposed to be on celebrating Pride Month, right? And now we got layers and layers of attack and layers of different conversation. And the actual conversation that they started off or wanted to debate upon is Pride Month. Now we're getting into some, you know, Riley, she sort of triggered them, and I know they're responding to her triggers that when she first spoke, and this is what I talk about. They were just waiting, and now they've shifted from the actual conversation of Pride Month, celebrating, talking about why someone would like to celebrate their uniqueness or celebrate their identity or celebrate who they are. They've shifted from that, and that's what I mentioned at the top of the video that Piers already set the tone. So now we're just having layers of different conversation of subject matter or points of view on different things, and then we're not even addressing the actual topic that they came to discuss, which was Pride Month. You know, which was Piers mentioned why should he be forced to celebrate it? You know, why should he, and if he doesn't, why should he have to face with prosecution of being called a bigot and all of this stuff? They haven't even addressed that. Now they're going off the women issues, trans being in the dressing room, women rights, you know, trans athletes in sports has nothing to do with Pride Month. Nothing to do with Pride Month. But here we go.
Agenda that
Ernest, when did Riley Gaines be far right?
You don't even know what woke means.
Hold on.
You don't even know
Okay,
what
that's
woke
fine.
means, right?
That's fine. Can I just ask you a question? Can I just ask you a question?
And that's fine.
Hold on, Ernest.
Right?
Can I ask you a question just to clarify because I'm none the wiser? Define
Sure.
far right. What's the definition of far right?
Far right are people that are pushing homophobic, transphobic views, misprescribing, misdefining terms such as woke. None of you all seem to really know what woke means, but you like to use it.
I wrote a book
That's
about it.
not a
So if you're going to
definition.
use
I
woke,
literally wrote a
It's just
book
people
about
you
it.
disagree with.
I'm going to call
That's
you all
far right to you,
far-right
people you disagree with.
conservatives.
Wait, see,
Like, you
okay,
calling me
hang on.
No, it's the same thing with
Hang
left.
on.
Anybody you don't agree with, you call woke. So if you're gonna call
You're
anyone
the
you don't
only
agree with
person who
woke
has said
or
woke this
extreme or
entire
lefty,
time.
Yeah,
then
literally.
I'm
I don't
gonna
even know
call
what that
you
word
all
means.
that.
Who has said woke.
I'm gonna call you
Let me
all
say
that.
something.
It's the past tense.
You saying that I think
See what I said? We're on woke. Definition of woke. Now we're in far rights and far lefts and all political, you know, hard politics to get in on, you know, everyone's drawing the line in which party they represent and all of that stuff. Where's the topic? Where's the debate about Pride Month? It's not here yet. It's just been glossed over. And now everyone is going at each other. You could hear that, you could feel the tension.
far right homophobe. My response to that is saying that men can identify as women and lesbians who don't want to date these men who identify as women. That is homophobic. You are using lesbians as your political pawn, and that's sick. Lesbians don't want this.
Riley, you've just come out with that from
So
nowhere.
why are
That
you
wasn't
calling it a
anywhere.
political pun?
That wasn't
Why
part
are
of
you
this
calling it a
discussion. Where's
political
that come
pun?
from?
Because he called me a homophobe, and I'm sitting here saying I'm fighting for
Well,
the
I
sex-based
think
rights of lesbians,
We
of
get
women.
emotional about this, and we're right to.
Get emotional about a lot
you're
of things.
discussing our rights.
How
and it
do
is
you
upsetting.
conflate? How do you conflate?
Hang on,
Please
don't talk over each other.
transphobia
Hang on,
with
hang on.
fighting for
Ernest,
women's
hang on.
rights?
Don't talk over each other, because otherwise you can't hear what's going on.
Yes.
You see, James, it seems to me because you show zero support for Riley's
That's
campaign.
not actually what happened. I just showed some
No,
support.
I'm talking about her campaign. You want to campaign about everything, but she's actually chosen the one that has directly impacted
No,
her
my
life.
question is,
No, hang
why
on.
aren't you
I haven't asked you
concerned
the
about that
question.
too? Well, let's ask Riley if she
I'm
is
about
concerned
to
about
She
that.
hasn't been
you-
hit by a man, James.
No, I'm going to come to that, but she's not here to talk about abuse of women. She's talking about the infringement on women's rights to fairness and equality in women's sport, which she herself has personally suffered from, right? Now, you have shown zero support for
That's
any
not
women
true.
like Riley Gaines.
That's not true. I just said it's an important
literally
story.
said in
I
sport-
literally said it's an important story that we need to
last
listen to.
week you
That's
said
what I said.
Last week,
Piers, I literally.
Piers Morgan just even admit she's here to talk about something totally different than what he started off in his monologue about Pride Month. He himself has shifted because I guess he put it out there and no one caught on to the bait when he was feeling it. So he shifted the whole conversation now to something else. So Riley's brought on, you could clearly hear Riley's brought on to discuss something different, nothing to do with Pride Month. So all of it is just misleading to have just what? A baseless conversation. Everyone is shouting over each other. And he now is saying, oh, let's not do that. But he started it. He poked that beer. And those two, James and the other guy, was like waiting. They were just waiting to explode. And now they have, and now everything is chaotic.
Literally just said 2 minutes ago, it's an important story.
If I may remind you, I know a week is a long time in James Barr's memory lapse, but
it was over a week because you've been on holiday.
Last week, I had 3 days off. Last week, you said that the Olympics should be gender neutral.
Well, I still think it would solve a lot of problems.
It would solve 0 problems.
It would solve so many problems.
And my point... And
I'm not a sports commentator. I don't know sport.
Oh,
but I'm
come
telling you,
on,
I think you
James.
should listen to Riley's story. But my issue is not the story or the concern. My issue is that it's the only concern. And then when we drill it down...
It's literally her campaign.
What do you think about abortion rights in America? What do you think about what Trump says? You don't want to comment on it.
What do you think about the Uyghur Muslims in China?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's her truth.
What have you tweeted about the Uyghur Muslims? You haven't.
About that.
So you're a bloody hypocrite. So
I'm not a hypocrite, but I'm saying
not everyone's
that's
doing it.
why I'm trying to explain why the left get upset. It's because we're looking at it and going, the only thing you're bringing up is trans.
Let me bring in Riley. Let's try and get some order here. This is exactly my... Ernest, wait a moment, please.
The hypocrisy is...
Wait a moment, Ernest. Riley, here's my point. We've just seen right there the hypocrisy.
It's not
right there, right?
I'm trying to explain.
When I say to James Barr, why don't you talk about Uyghur Muslims oppression? Well, why should I
talk about Uyghur Muslims?
Why should I? I do.
Right.
Why should I? He doesn't. But he wants you to talk about all these other issues. No, I don't.
I am trying to explain why we get upset. It's because we look at it and we go, "Why is J.K. Rowling only concerned about this one thing?"
She's not only really concerned about that. She tweets about a lot of stuff. Let me bring in Riley. You've been very patient.
I think it's entirely disingenuous to say that this is the only issue that I care about. I spend majority of my time advocating for this issue, but that's not to say that I don't speak on other issues. A big campaign of mine and what I am advocating for now is women in prisons. Women who are most of the time victims of domestic assault, domestic abuse, to which your point, I will say any form of sexual violence, any form of domestic violence that women face is entirely wrong and should be denounced, and those who commit it should be criminalized. But a large push right now is for fighting for these women in prisons, incarcerated women. They still deserve sex-based protections and their rights too.
But it always comes back to this one issue, which only affects less women than the major.
Does that make it? Does that make it?
It doesn't make it wrong, and it's okay that that's wrong.
Let me bring in.
All right, we get upset.
Right.
Don't talk over each other, Ernest.
Right. Yes. The point I'm making is that that's exactly the point I was trying to make earlier, is that while she cares about other issues that are very important, and I agree with her on several of those issues, she's being platformed only when it comes to particular issues that are divisive, that are transphobic, that do not show the full nuance of her explored interest.
It's not transphobic to think 6 foot 4 inch biological males should not be competing against women.
With Pride Month? Why is this being conflated with Pride Month, Piers? Why?
From you, how many?
Hold up.
Sure. Far right. What's the definition of far right?
And we go, why is J.K. Rowling only concerned about this?
That are transphobic, that do not show the full nuance.
Sorry about that. I wanted to pause there. You see my point? He just said it himself. He said, what does that have to do with Pride Month? They're different topics. And he himself, and I'm going to agree and disagree with him. I agree with him on that the discussion was supposed to be about Pride Month. Now it's just all over the place. And where I disagree with him is just because she's expressing an opinion on something that he doesn't like, it doesn't make it homophobic. And this is where he was ready to be. That's the defense. He's already riled up. You could hear everyone is talking over each other. he was waiting for that because Piers set the tone, as I mentioned before. Riley then spoke on it, and he was just waiting. And then you had that Jordan Peterson segment, ugly comparison between Nazis and, you know, I'm not going to even get into that. But this is my whole point. Both James and I forgot his name. This guy has been waiting, and now he's going to call her transphobic for disagreeing with him. And this is a defense that a lot of people from the LGBT plus community, they do that, specifically those who are passionate about the transgender issues. When they feel or when they're back against the wall in terms of a debate, they will lash out and say you're homophobic or transphobic or whatever it is, just because they don't agree with you. Now, I believe he wouldn't have. This is my belief. I don't believe he would have entered into that. He wouldn't have mentioned that had they not triggered him. And because if they triggered him, they forgot that they triggered him, and here he goes. He goes off on one.
Explored interest.
It's not transphobic to think 6 foot 4 inch biological males should not be competing against women.
With Pride Month? Why is this being conflated with Pride Month, Piers? Why?
It's not being conflated.
Why is she here talking about? Why is she in the conversation around Pride Month?
She wasn't. She was in a conversation about her book, which then led to a conversation about Pride Month.
No, but she's talking. But she's also in a conversation about Pride Month. Why is there a conflation there?
Pride Month affects
because it goes aligned with your far right agenda.
Why you're bothered. She's not far right.
That's the issue that we're talking about the channel.
Ernest, let me ask you. Ernest, why do we have to have? I want to ask Ernest a question. Why do we have to have a month of Pride?
Go ahead.
Why?
Because the reason why is because it's people like you who don't understand why we really have it. It's not really about sexuality. It's about allowing people who are like myself, who don't feel like they're being represented or being protected in a world and a society where people like Riley gets a platform to spew misinformation.
What's the misinformation?
Representation.
What's the misinformation, Ernest?
The misinformation about gender.
Tell me one thing she said. Tell me one thing she said that's wrong.
Weaponizing transgender people.
Tell me one thing she said, Ernest, that's wrong.
That is just the biggest.
Ernest.
And I just said that.
Ernest.
And I just said it.
I think it's the vibe.
I want you to correct one thing she said that was wrong.
Can you hear?
Yeah, answer me.
So, transgender people's existence does not threaten the existence of women.
No one has said that. Nobody said that.
But it is the vibe, though, isn't it?
No.
That is the vibe of this whole debate.
No.
It is, though. That's definitely the vibe. I'd say that's the vibe of your whole channel, actually.
Ernest, nobody has ever said that. No one said that.
It's the vibe.
I support trans rights, fairness, and equality. You cannot think of a single thing. All right, I'm asking you one more time. Tell me one thing Riley Gaines has said, this far-right lunatic who's lying, apparently. Tell me one thing she said that is actually factually untrue.
Like I said before, trying to position
and
over-index transgender people in sports. I said it again. Over-indexing the role of transgender people in sports as if it poses a threat to cisgender women.
Cisgender?
That's BS.
Yeah. See what I said? All over the place. And there's only one time Ernest brought it back and said, hey, what are we debating here? There are two different topics, right? And for me, he didn't really, I think it was a missed opportunity for him to use that opportunity when Piers asked him about why he should celebrate a whole month for Pride Month. I think he should have used that opportunity to talk about, it's just about being underrepresented. If you're underrepresented, and you need a platform or a space or a time to celebrate who you are, the uniqueness about you. And I think that's what Pride Month is about celebration, about the community. It's just like you have Black History Month, Asian History Month, Hispanic History Month. You have celebration about what you call it here in the UK. I think it has to do with anyway. I forgot the celebration, but in Boston they have their own celebration where they celebrate their own Irish heritage. Jewish community, they celebrate as well. So everyone who have a sub community or subculture of the larger culture, and because they have something unique that is different from the larger population, they celebrate that uniqueness. Something is an identity. So I don't see what's the problem when anyone's trying to celebrate. You don't have to join in the celebration. You just got to let them be and let them celebrate and do their own thing. They're not harming anyone. If they harm anyone or break the law or whatever, then you can address that. But I think he should have used this opportunity to talk about, when you're a minor in a country or an organization or in a community or wherever it is, if you are part of a minority group, yes, you want your voice, you want to be heard, you want to be seen, you want to be noticed. These are just basic things of human being. You want to be recognized, you want to be championed, and that's why people have these month. These communities have these month to celebrate who they are, and I think he should have used that. But like I said, he's already riled up. He's gone. He's lost it. He's now calling her far right. She's now also transphobic and all these things. So now his insults. Is attack, and now he's coming across now. And this is what I was talking about. He's coming across now as the very thing that Pierce was addressing and Riley was saying, that if they don't support, they get attacked, right? And they've just now paint him that picture and put him as one of those who will attack you if you oppose anything about the LGBTQ plus community. And that's just because he lost his way. He's already riled up, and they did that to him. They poked the bear. They provoked him. So they used him for their own agenda and stuff. That's not cool. For me, like I said, I'm here for everybody. Everyone has a right to express their opinion, but at the same time, don't provoke someone and then try to turn around and say, see, there he goes, there she goes, there, that one goes, and point finger. That's gaslighting. And they did that. I call it out. They've done that early on, and now look at him now. He's all lit. He's ready to go.
Why aren't we seeing women infiltrate into men's sport?
Yeah, of course we're not, because they can't compete. You don't see any trans men going into men's sport, do you? Because they can't. They'd lose. No.
And I don't.
Ernest,
I'm trying to figure out what are you trying to say.
There aren't. There are no trans men competing at a high level in men's sport.
Women.
It doesn't happen.
No,
it doesn't exist.
Trans women are not.
No, I want to hear this.
Trans women are
she
men.
does not believe that transgender women are women.
Because they're not.
Right.
They're not. For the love of God,
I don't think we should get into
They are not. Please stop abusing women by calling us cisgender. Women are just women, right? Anything else?
So see how she said abusing women? So she does not.
That doesn't make you a woman.
Trans
I can't believe we have to have this
You know where this takes you, Ernest?
Abusing.
Ernest.
These are far right.
Biological reality is far right. Is that it?
Here's what
is mine. If I'm a transphobe, then you are a misogynist.
Yeah, exactly. It's complete nonsense. The Ovarian Cancer UK.
So defending transgender women
Ernest, keep quiet for a moment. Ernest, please stop talking. I'm reading something.
I love you, Ernest.
The Ovarian Cancer UK tweeted today.
Love you too.
Did you know that anyone with ovaries, regardless of gender identity, can be at risk for ovarian cancer? Let's raise awareness by asking, can men get ovarian cancer? James Barr, men can't get ovarian cancer because men don't have ovaries. What is a leading cancer charity doing asking this stupid question?
What are you doing attacking a charity?
Because I think that is attacking women.
Why are you attacking a charity?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because a woman then actually messaged me who has terminal ovarian cancer, who says the idea of being on a tiny ward with somebody identifying as a woman next to her who actually has a penis and is a man, right, fills her with utter horror.
Because of all the nonsense and fear-mongering that this platform is creating.
No, she's a woman. Doesn't want to be around men.
Listen to me.
when she's dying.
Piers,
Listen to me.
Piers,
In an ovarian
here's a
cancer.
question.
If I
Question
decide
here.
to drink,
I have a
oat milk,
question.
that doesn't mean that actual milk is no longer is being threatened. Okay,
He's
and in
not
this
gonna
case,
get
this
that.
charity want to raise
He's not
awareness
gonna
about
get that. I
maybe
got-
1%,
Piers, I got a
if
question
that,
for
of
you.
people that could suffer from ovarian cancer.
So how
that
many men?
aren't-
Okay, let me ask you. How many men have ovaries?
I have no idea, Piers.
Piers,
I'm
no.
not in that
How many?
situation.
How many?
But they
Hold
put it
on.
in their tweet.
It
If you read
doesn't-
it
that doesn't
properly, it
matter.
actually says
No
what the
men-
statistics
Not
are.
gonna-
No
It
men-
does say.
No men
Piers.
have ovaries.
Well, according
no
to
women,
a
I have
charity
a
that
question.
work
It's
in this
simple.
field,
no
they do.
men
So why
have
don't you take it up with the
ovaries.
charity?
No women have penises.
Well, according to the charity, who I think probably know more about
Hold
ovaries
on.
than you do,
They
because
clearly
you aren't a
don't.
woman, Piers.
They
Neither am
clearly
I.
don't.
Sorry, look, you know so much about women. Your wife took a 2-week break from you, so I don't know why we're listening to you talking about
What?
women constantly. Can we just get?
See what I said? It's all out war. He just attacked him about his wife. Now he's made it personal because he was triggered. And Pierce did that. So he asked for that. And look at Pierce. Just look at the look on Pierce Fierce. He was just like, oh, where are you going with that? He felt embarrassed right there. He was embarrassed. He's angry, but he's keeping his composure. Just look at this pause photo of Pierce. Look at his eyes. And look at that smirk on his face. Now, you provoke someone, and when they react, that's what happened. And that's what I meant. And here he goes. He just made an attack, a personal attack, because he couldn't keep it any longer within him. Because both him and Ernest have been, they felt that they've been under attack for an entire community when they should have just allowed everyone to express their opinion. That's one saying, one part of it. But Pierce and Riley did provoke. And this is the response. And right here. And look at Pierce Fierce. And this is just cold. This is unnecessary and uncalled for. They have missed the point about this whole debate. And it's just all over the place now.
Back to the fact that they are trying to help someone.
My
That's
wife did
all it
what,
is.
did you say?
Didn't you have a sabbatical from each other?
It was actually a lot longer than 2 weeks.
Was it?
Yeah.
How
I
long was it?
recommend it warming with us. I wouldn't buy
Okay.
one from you. Let me bring Riley back in. Riley,
Oh
this is
my
the
gosh.
trouble. When you ask
It's
specific
very
questions,
obvious- it's very
Ernest, stop
obvious that
shouting.
Everybody,
Uh,
the conversation is clear.
Yes, go on,
Oh,
on,
okay,
Ernest.
so I got to be quiet. But
Go on, Ernest.
in a nutshell, the larger point I'm making here is that the reason why I'm saying transphobia is because it's clear on this panel that a lot of you on this panel believe that there is only one type of woman, which is cisgender women, and anyone else does not prescribe to that definition for you all.
No,
and in
here's
my
what-
opinion,
no,
that
no.
is transphobic.
Here's what I
You only
believe.
believe that
Let me
cisgender
answer,
women
Ernest.
are women, and everyone
Okay,
else
are there different
is
types
not
of black
included in the
people?
conversation.
Or is black just black?
It's called diaspora.
That's
You don't know
because
that?
because black
Caribbeans,
is just
Jamaicans.
black. Just like there's no such thing as cisgender and transgender. There are just women. You can embellish your titles whatever you want.
Why are you
and
conflating
walk
race
down the
with
street
gender?
in a
Let
Let me
nice
ask you this,
uniform.
Ernest.
That
Ernest, let me ask you this.
Women are
Why are you
women.
conflating
Hang
race
on,
with gender?
hang on. Don't all shout. Ernest, let me ask you this. If I now identify as a black man, am I a black man?
Why are you conflating race with gender, Pierce?
I'm just
It's not the
asking you a
same
question,
thing.
Ernest.
That's intellectually dishonest.
It's not
If I
intellectual.
identify,
That's intellectually dishonest.
maybe, but it's a question you don't want to answer, isn't it? If self-identity is limitless,
Because
I'm
race is
now a
not the
black
same
man
as
called
gender.
Ernest.
Because race
Am
is not
I?
the same as gender.
Am I a black man if I say I'm a black man?
Say it again.
Am I a black man if I
Listen,
say I'm a black
you
man?
can be
Am I?
no, because you're
Okay.
a white man. Because
Thank you.
it's race.
So you don't
Because race
respect
is not
my
the same as
rights
gender.
to identify as a black man, do you? Do you think it's ridiculous?
You can identify as a black man. You can identify as a black man, Pierce. But I know you lean on white privilege more than anything else.
Okay,
You
just to be
wouldn't if
clear,
you wanted to.
you wouldn't respect my
So don't
rights
even
to
be
identify
intellectually
as a.
dishonest.
You don't respect my rights to identify as a black man. In fact, you think it's ridiculous, don't you, Ernest?
You could, Pierce, you could if you wanted to. And
Yeah,
the reality is,
would
that
you
in
respect
society,
me,
a white
Ernest?
man like you
Would you
can
respect me?
identify as black.
Would you
and not-
respect
and not,
me
and not
and
be
refer to
harmed
me as
in
a
the same
black
way
man?
that a transgender person would?
Would you respect me and refer to me
Say
as
it
a black
again?
man? Would you respect me and refer to me as a black man? Yes or no?
No.
Thank you, Ernest. Okay, let's move on to something else. This is
The point is
no,
so
no,
low.
Ernest,
Like,
you had your
that is
chance.
the
You had your
dumbest
chance.
example
Ernest, you had your
ever.
chance. Obviously,
Come on,
you wouldn't accept it because I'm not black.
You didn't even post a black square.
I'm not a
Piers.
black man. But you know what? Let's move on. Let's move on to some other lunatics.
You don't want to be a black man, Piers.
Let's
you
move
don't
on
want
to
to be black.
All right, calm down, Ernest. Let's move on to Ali Baldwin.
I want to be black, Piers.
I want to move on to Ali Baldwin, and one of the.
Yeah, I'm gonna end it there. But that's my point. The whole thing just went chaotic. The whole thing just went all over the place. It was a mess. They got into all these other topics that they all discuss over and over and over, and they just brought it back into this conversation when this was all about Pride Month. Piers started off talking about that, missed the point. It didn't got it really addressed. And when it was mentioned almost as a cynical attack or something. And from that, Ernest, they all got into one. As you could see, then Piers got into, well, if I want to identify as a black man, and all of that stuff. It's just pointless. Pointless. But my point on it in closing is that, there's no problem in LGBTQ plus community celebrating having a month to celebrate their community and their identities and uniqueness about them. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as they're not harming anyone, and I know they're not harming anyone. From what I've known, I've got friends who are members of that community and they don't go out harming anyone. So I would say this, let people just be, that's me. That's my opinion. And again, I'm a straight man. It's just like if someone comes up and say, "Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day," I might turn around and say, "Well, happy St. Patrick's Day back to you, but I am not Irish. I don't identify as being Irish. I am not Irish. You could look at me and I'm not Irish, right? Not even from Boston, and they love that. Here in the UK, they celebrate the holiday too, but I still participate in that. And no one talks about it being forced on them. People celebrate it and it just go over their heads. And guess what? People from the LGBTQ plus community, they celebrate St. Patrick's Day and they don't moan about it. So my point, the topic should have stayed on, discussed in good length about why they should celebrate, the LGBTQ plus community should celebrate Pride Month. Why they should have a whole month. That should have been the discussion and that should have stayed on it, because then you could have pulled other people celebrating different holidays and all of this stuff into the conversation. It would have made it more relevant. But it just went off. Everyone came loaded for something. But yeah, in the comments, what is your take on Piers and his panel?